A lonely billionaire's world changed forever when a kind waitress saw the true magic in his disabled son and gave them both a gift money could never buy. Ethan Carter was the kind of man who could walk into any room and make people stop talking. Not because he was loud or showy, but because everyone knew who he was. He was a billionaire, a tech genius, a man who had built one of the most powerful companies in the country from nothing. His face was often on magazine covers, his name in headlines, but none of those things made him feel strong anymore. Behind the serious suits, the important meetings, and the endless calls, there was a father who was deeply afraid for his only child. Noah was 10 years old and had cerebral palsy. He couldn't walk without help, and even then, only a few steps. He had difficulty with speech and muscle control, but his mind was sharp and his heart even brighter. Ethan loved him more than anything in the world. He had lost his wife, Anna, in a terrible car crash just 2 weeks after Noah's second birthday. Since then, Ethan had taken control of everything related to Noah's life. He was determined to protect him from any possible harm. He built a world around Asuna, a world of safety, order, and control. Therapists came to their home every day, a full-time nurse was always nearby. Tutors taught Noah subjects at his level, and sometimes above, but always in their house. Ethan didn't want his son to feel different, but deep inside, he also didn't want him to face the world that might laugh, stare, or treat him unfairly. It was easier, Ethan thought, to build walls than to fight the cruel reality outside. Noah never went to school with other kids. He never played in a park, had never been to a friend's house, because he had never really had any friends. Every year, Ethan tried to give Noah the best birthday gifts money could. Buy robotic toys, advanced gadgets, expensive books. But every year, the smile on Noah's face felt smaller. His eyes were always kind, always full of love for his dad, but something was missing. Something Ethan couldn't quite name. This year, Ethan decided to do something slightly different. He didn't want a big party or an event filled with strangers pretending to celebrate. He wanted something calm and private. So he booked a small, cozy cafe on the edge of the city. It wasn't flashy or fancy, but it had soft music, clean surroundings, and a private corner where no one would bother them. The owner knew not to let other customers come in during their time. Ethan wanted to keep things quiet. Controlled, he dressed Noah in his favorite light blue sweater and brushed his dark curls gently. Noah smiled as always, looking up at his father with eyes that still held trust. He didn't ask questions about where they were going. He had learned not to expect surprises. Everything in his life was scheduled, planned, and repeated. But deep inside, Noah still hoped for something different. They arrived at the cafe just before noon. The staff greeted them politely, but didn't make a fuss. That was one of the reasons Ethan chose the place, guided Noah's wheelchair to a table by the window. The sunlight was soft, and outside the window, trees danced slowly in the breeze. A young waitress approached them. She was in her early 20s, wearing a plain apron and a smile that didn't look forced. Her name tag read Emily. She didn't seem nervous or starstruck to see Ethan Carter. She just looked at Noah with a genuine smile and said, "Hi there, birthday boy. How old are you today?" Noah blinked, surprised. Most people talked to his nurse or his father, rarely to him. And when they did, their voices were often too slow or too loud, like they thought he couldn't understand. But Emily spoke to him. "Like any other 10-year-old, 10, he said softly, his speech slightly slurred but clear enough. 10, double digits. It's a big deal, she said with excitement, pretending to be shocked. I think that calls for an extra special chocolate milkshake. Noah smiled without meaning to. Ethan noticed it and looked at the waitress with a curious expression. He nodded politely, but didn't say much. Emily took their order grilled. Cheese for Noah, salad for Ethan, and that special milkshake. She didn't hover or stare. She just moved smoothly between tables, chatting with the chef, cleaning up a spill, smiling at the elderly man who came in just for coffee. Every few minutes, she glanced at Noah, giving him a small wave or a silly face. And each time, Noah's smile grew a little wider when she brought the food. She placed everything neatly and then bent down a bit to Noah's eye level. "I hope you're hungry," she said. "The chef made this with extra cheese because birthdays deserve extra everything." Noah nodded, then said, "Thank you." Ethan watched, feeling something strange in his chest. He had seen many people around his son, doctors, therapists, nurses, but this was different. This girl wasn't trained to work with special children. She wasn't hired. She wasn't acting like she had to be kind. She just was. They ate quietly for a while. Noah seemed more relaxed than usual. He even told his dad a little joke about a robot who forgot its battery. Ethan laughed softly, surprised at the sudden burst of humor. He couldn't remember the last time Noah made a joke on his own. When Emily came back to clear the plates, she winked at Noah. "I have a surprise for you," she said, and walked away before either of them could respond. A few minutes later, she returned carrying a cupcake with a single candle on it, and on top was a tiny toy astronaut. She placed it in front of Noah and started singing a quiet version of the birthday song. Not loud, not dramatic, just enough to make the moment feel warm. Noah looked at the cupcake, then at the little astronaut, and then at Emily. "I like space," he whispered. "I had a feeling," she whispered back. He blew out the candle with a soft puff. Emily clapped gently. Ethan's throat tightened. He wasn't sure why. Maybe it was the look of pure joy on Noah's face. Maybe it was the way this young woman had made his son feel like any other kid Evan, if just for a few minutes. They got back in the car. Noah was still holding the toy astronaut. His fingers curled around it like a treasure. "Did you like her?" Ethan asked. Noah nodded, smiling again. "She's funny. She talks to me." That sentence hit Ethan like a quiet thunderstorm. Not about me, not about me, not around me, not through someone else. To me, that night, Ethan sat alone in his study, looking at old photos of Anna. She had always wanted Noah to be around people, to feel life, not just be safe from it. Ethan thought he was doing the right thing by building a fortress, but maybe he had built a prison instead. For the first time in a long while, he wondered if keeping the world out had kept something even more important. Like joy, friendship, laughter. Maybe Noah didn't need more protection. Maybe he needed more connection. He looked at the small astronaut toy Noah had left on his desk. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't rare. But it was already more valuable than most things money could buy. It was a sign of happiness, of being seen, and it had come from a girl named Emily, a stranger with no agenda, no business card, no reason other than kindness. Ethan didn't know it yet, but this small moment was the start of something big. Something that would change more than just his son's birthday. It would change both of their lives. The next morning, Emily walked into the cafe with her hair tied up in a messy bun and her apron slightly wrinkled. She had just dropped off her younger brother at school and rushed to work like she did every day. Her life wasn't easy, but she didn't complain. She couldn't afford to. Between college classes, 2 part-time jobs, and taking care of her brother, Emily barely had time to sit down. Still, there was something about that birthday lunch from the day before that stayed. In her heart, the little boy in the wheelchair, Noah, had the gentlest smile, and the way he held that tiny astronaut figure made her think of her brother, Jake, who also had cerebral palsy. Emily never mentioned Jake to customers. Most people didn't care. Some got uncomfortable when she talked about disabilities, like it was a heavy subject they didn't want to carry. But something about Noah and his quiet father felt different. She had seen the loneliness in Noah's eyes, a look she knew too well. It was the same look Jake had when other kids avoided him. On the playground, she didn't want that boy to feel invisible, not even for one afternoon. When her manager told her that the man from yesterday, Mr. Carter, had made another reservation for lunch today, she was surprised. She hadn't expected him to come back so soon. Maybe he had liked the service, or maybe Noah had enjoyed the visit more than they had shown. Either way, she felt glad. There was something peaceful about that little family. Even if they didn't say much, Ethan hadn't planned on returning to the cafe so quickly either. But that night, after the birthday lunch, Noah wouldn't stop talking about Emily. He didn't use many words, but the way he spoke said enough. He had described her sparkly eyes, her silly jokes, and the cupcake surprise like it was the most magical event of the year. It had been a long time since Ethan had seen his son talk about someone with such energy, so he made the decision on impulse. He booked the same table again and told Noah they were going back. When they arrived, Emily greeted them with a bright smile that looked even more genuine than before. "Hey, birthday boy," she called out as they entered. Noah grinned instantly. "Hi." Ethan noticed the way his son lit up around her, and he allowed himself a small smile, too. They sat at the same window side table, and Emily brought over a small whiteboard and marker this time. "I thought you might want to draw while you wait," she said to Noah. "You look like someone with a wild imagination." Bored eagerly and started sketching what looked like a rocket ship. Emily crouched beside him for a moment and pointed at one of the stick figures inside the rocket. "Is that you?" she asked. He nodded proudly. "And that's the astronaut from the cupcake," he added softly. Ethan sat back and watched the exchange. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel the need to control the situation, didn't feel nervous or overprotective. Emily treated his son with such ease that it felt naturally like it was just two kids talking. During lunch, Emily talked with both of them. She didn't try to force conversation, but she also didn't treat them like a billionaire and his disabled child. She asked Noah about his favorite movies, and he surprised her by saying he loved old science fiction films. She pretended to be shocked, like the black and white ones. "You've got good taste, sir," Ethan chuckled quietly. He rarely laughed in public. Most people around him were always too formal or too careful, but Emily didn't carry that weight. She wasn't trying to impress him. That made her different. Over the next few weeks, Ethan found himself visiting the cafe again and again, sometimes twice a week, sometimes more. He didn't even bother making formal reservations anymore. The cafe staff began to recognize them, but no one made a big deal out of it thanks to Emily's quiet protection. Each visit became a special part of Noah's week. He would ask about Emily in the mornings, draw pictures for her, and tell his nurse how funny she was. Sometimes she would bring simple things, a small puzzle, a paper origami, or a new silly joke. Noah soaked it all up with joy. Emily had also started to share little bits about her life. One afternoon, when Noah asked her if she had any brothers, she hesitated, then nodded. Double quotes, "Yeah, I have a little brother. He's 9. His name is Jake. He uses a wheelchair too. It's kind of like my best friend." Noah looked surprised. "Really?" "Really," Emily said. "He loves video games and drawing cartoons. He's also the messiest eater in the world."
Yes.
Noah laughed so hard that he nearly spilled his juice. Ethan watched from across the table, a deep sense of gratitude swelling in his chest. Emily hadn't just connected with Noah, she had opened a door he didn't know existed. She had given Noah something even his expensive doctors couldn't: friendship, one day. After their lunch, Ethan stayed behind while Noah's nurse wheeled him to the car. He approached Emily, who was clearing plates with her usual calm. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Ethan asked. "Of course," she said, putting the dishes down gently. "I just wanted to say thank you for how you treat my son." Emily blinked. "You don't have to thank me. He's an amazing kid. You talk to him like he's just a kid, not like someone to feel sorry for, not like he's fragile, because he isn't," Emily said. Simply, Ethan studied her face. It was sincere, not forced. He was used to people pretending. She wasn't. "Is your brother's condition the same as Noah's?" he asked carefully. "Pretty similar," she said. "Jake has spastic cerebral palsy. He can't walk on his own, and his speech is a little hard to understand. But he's brilliant. He's funny, stubborn, and smarter than most adults I know." Ethan nodded slowly. "You talk about him with pride." "Of course I do," she said. "He's my whole world." Something in Ethan softened. He had spent so long trying to protect Noah from the world that he had forgotten how important it was for Noah to feel connected to it. Emily reminded him of Anna in a strange way, not in looks, but in spirit. His wife had also been full of heart, someone who always believed in seeing the person, not just the condition. That night, Ethan sat with Noah and asked him if he wanted to invite Emily to one of his lessons. Noah nodded eagerly. She makes it fun, said. So Ethan asked Emily if she'd be willing to join Noah during a home art session. She hesitated at first, unsure if it was allowed or appropriate, but Ethan assured her it was just a friendly visit, and she agreed. When she arrived at the mansion a few days later, she was clearly overwhelmed. The house was huge, like something from a movie. The garden was perfectly trimmed, and the inside looked like a luxury hotel. But Emily didn't let it change her behavior. She walked in with the same smile, carrying a small sketchbook and a box of crayons she had borrowed from Jake. Noah was thrilled. He showed her around like a proud host, taking her through his favorite rooms and pointing out his fish tank. During the art session, Emily sat beside him and helped him draw a spaceship. Battle scene. Ethan watched from the hallway. There was something healing in the room, something that no money could buy. His son was laughing like he was completely free. Emily was the reason. Over the next few weeks, Emily became a regular visitor, not just at the cafe, but at their home. Sometimes she brought Jake with her, and the two boys became fast friends. They bonded over superhero stories and Lego towers. They didn't see each other's disabilities, just each other's joy. Ethan, too, began to open up. He would sit with Emily in the garden while the boys played and ask her about her life. How she managed so much with so little. Emily would just shrug. You do what you have to for the people you love. One day, while they watched the boys draw side by side, Ethan said something he hadn't said in years. I think you've brought my son back to life. Emily looked at him, surprised. He was never gone, she said. He was just waiting for someone to see him. And Ethan knew, in that moment, she was right. The days turned into weeks, and Ethan found himself doing something he hadn't done in years, looking forward to the next day. Every morning now began with Noah's questions about Emily and Jake. What time was Emily coming? Could Jake stay longer today? Would they draw, play, or build with blocks? His excitement was endless. For the first time in his life, Noah felt like he had a friend who understood him, and that changed everything. Ethan watched all of this with quiet wonder. Noah was smiling more, laughing more, speaking more. He even started asking to go outside. That was something Ethan never expected. For years he had tried to protect his son from a world that could be unkind. But now he realized that maybe the world had some kindness left in it after all. Emily had shown him that Emily's single quotes in their lives had become something natural. She still worked at the cafe, still studied, and still cared for her brother, but she made time to visit Noah at least twice a week. She would help him paint, play games with him, and even taught him how to fold paper cranes. Sometimes she and Jake would stay for dinner. The sound of children giggling at the dinner table was something Ethan had almost forgotten, but now it filled the house again. Ethan had grown curious about Emily's life, started asking more questions, not just out of politeness, but genuine interest. One evening after the kids had gone to bed, he invited Emily to sit with him in the garden. You never talk much about yourself, he said. Emily shrugged. There's not much to say, really. It's hard to believe. I've done more for my son in a few weeks than a team of experts has done in years. Emily smiled softly. I just treat him like I treat my brother. I guess when you live with someone like Jake, you learn how to listen with your heart, not just your ears. Ethan nodded, thinking, tell me about Jake. Emily looked toward the house where her little brother was probably still playing with. Noah, he's the reason I do everything. After our parents died, I became his legal guardian. I was only 19, it was scary. I didn't know if I could manage it, but I had no choice. I dropped out of college for a while, took jobs wherever I could. It was tough, still is. But Jake, he's worth it. He's funny and stubborn and smarter than me sometimes. Ethan listened closely. He knew the kind of responsibility Emily carried. It wasn't easy, but she never seemed bitter. She didn't complain or ask for help. She simply kept going, powered by love and determination. You're strong, he said after a pause. Emily smiled again but shook her head. Not really. I just keep showing up. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You remind me of someone, your wife? She asked gently. He nodded. Anna was like you. She believed in people. She believed Noah would live a full life no matter what the doctors said. I lost that belief after she died. I built walls around him, thinking I was protecting him. Maybe all I did was keep him away from the world. Emily looked at him, her eyes kind. You were doing your best. That's what love does. It tries to keep people safe. But love also has to let go, right? Ethan said softly. Emily didn't answer with words. She just reached over and gently touched his hand, a quiet sign that she understood more than he knew. After that night, their bond grew even stronger. Ethan trusted Emily not only with Noah, but also with conversations he hadn't shared with anyone else. They would talk for hours about life, about loss, about hope. And in those moments, Ethan felt something inside him slowly healing. One afternoon, Noah asked Ethan something unexpected. Dad, can I have a birthday party next year? Ethan raised an eyebrow. A party? Like with other kids? Noah nodded. And music, and balloons, and games, and Emily, and Jake. Ethan was stunned. His son, who once feared loud noises and crowded places, now wanted a party. What made you think of that? He asked. Noah smiled. Jake said his birthday party was the best day of the year. I want one too. Ethan looked into his son's eyes. There was no fear there, only hope. Okay, Ethan said slowly. We'll plan something amazing. Noah clapped his hands with joy. Can Emily help? Of course, Ethan replied, smiling. When Emily heard about Noah's request, she was thrilled. She immediately started helping him plan. She brought catalogs with decorations, made lists of fun activities, and even began teaching Noah how to make invitation cards. It became a project they worked on together for weeks. As the planning continued, Ethan realized how much had changed. His house, once quiet and cold, was now full of laughter and warmth. His son, once closed off and quiet, was now active and curious. And he himself, once guarded and distant, opened up in ways he never thought possible. One day, while watching the kids play with a bubble machine in the garden, Emily turned to Ethan and said, You know, this house doesn't feel like a museum anymore. It feels like a home. Ethan didn't know what to say, but he knew she was right. He also started noticing how much Emily was doing, not just for them, but for her own brother. She worked long hours, studied late at night, and still found time to give Noah love and attention. He could see the tiredness in her eyes sometimes, even when she smiled. One evening, as he walked her to her car, he asked, Do you ever rest? Emily laughed. Sometimes, when Jake falls asleep before me and I don't have an assignment. Do you need help, Ethan? Said gently. Emily looked at him, unsure. I'm okay, I know you are, he said, but even the strongest people need support sometimes. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at the night sky. Sometimes I wish there were two of me, one to go to school, one to work, and one to just be there for Jake. Ethan smiled. It's three of you. Emily laughed. See, I'm too tired to count. They stood in silence for a while, the stars blinking above them. Ethan felt something shift again inside him. This young woman who had so little had given so much, and she had done it without expecting anything in return. He began to think about what he could do, not as a billionaire, not as a man with power, but as a father whose life had been touched deeply by someone else's kindness. He didn't want to offend her, didn't want to make her feel like a charity case. But he also couldn't ignore everything she was doing alone. He started by doing some quiet research, asking about programs, legal options, scholarships, and medical care plans. He wanted to find a way to help her and Jake that felt right, that felt fair. And at the same time, he began forming a plan, a real, meaningful plan. But for now, he said nothing. He continued spending time with Emily and the boys, helping Noah prepare for the biggest birthday of his life. He bought party supplies, hired a magician, rented a bouncy castle just in case other kids wanted to come, and even allowed Noah to pick the music playlist. And through it all, Emily was by their side laughing, helping, guiding. She became more than a friend. She became family. The day before the party, Ethan sat with Noah and asked, Are you excited? Noah nodded eagerly. You think other kids will come? "I think they will," Ethan said, "'cause you're an awesome kid." Noah leaned over and hugged his dad tightly. "Thanks for letting me be me." Ethan held him close, tears filling his eyes. "You've always been you," he whispered. "I'm just sorry it took me so long to see how amazing that is." That night, Ethan looked out the window at the stars. He thought about Anna, about all the dreams she had for their son. He wished he could see Noah now, happy, brave, free. And deep in his heart, he knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. The day Noah had been dreaming about finally arrived. It was his birthday. But this time, it wasn't like the quiet, controlled lunches at fancy restaurants or private dinners at home. This was a real birthday party with people, colors, noise, and joy. It was the kind of celebration most kids looked forward to every year, but for Noah, it was a first. Ethan had gone all out. He rented a large park on the edge of the city, a place with open green fields, colorful flowers, and even a small lake. Nearby, he didn't want anything indoors or quiet. He wanted Noah to feel the world, to smell fresh air, hear children laughing, and feel the warmth of the sun on his face. This time, it wasn't about safety or comfort. It was about freedom. Emily had helped plan every detail. She brought the heart into the event, the colors, the energy, the little touches that made it feel magical. She decorated the space with paper lanterns, balloons shaped like rockets and stars, and a big handmade banner that read "Happy Birthday, Noah." She even convinced a few friends and neighbors to help her set up games and stations where kids could paint, build with blocks, and play music. Noah was dressed in a superhero-themed t-shirt with a big red cape attached to the back. Been Emily's idea, and she had stitched it herself. "Every birthday boy needs a cape," she said, "especially one as brave as you." When Noah arrived at the park and saw everything, his eyes went wide. He didn't say much at first. He just looked around, taking it all in, the kids playing, the decorations, the smells of food from the barbecue grill, and the sound of cheerful music. Then slowly he smiled, a wide, joyful smile that melted Ethan's heart. "Do you like it?" Ethan asked, kneeling beside his wheelchair. Noah nodded. "It's perfect." Emily walked over, holding her little brother Jake's hand. Jake was wearing a matching cape, and the two boys hugged as best they could. "Ready to party, birthday boy?" Emily grinned. Noah laughed. "Ready?" What followed was the most magical day of Noah's life. There were other kids there, twosome, with disabilities, some without. Ethan had invited families from special schools and therapy centers, while Emily had reached out to parents she knew from support groups. It was a mix of people who understood and accepted each other. The children played freely. No one stared at wheelchairs. No one acted differently. The kids painted spaceships, built towers out of foam blocks, and took turns trying to pop giant bubbles floating in the air. There was even a small puppet show that had every child giggling, including the parents. Emily moved around like a magician. She handed out party hats, helped kids pour juice, and tied ribbons into Noah's curls. She never looked tired, even though she had been up since sunrise, helping Ethan's team set everything up. Her energy was endless, fueled by nothing but joy. At one point, Emily sat with Noah under a tree. The party was still going on in the background, but the two of them took a break to enjoy the shade. "You did all this," Noah said softly. "No," Emily replied, smiling. "You did? You wanted a party? You believed it could happen? And look, here we are." Noah looked up at the sky through the branches. "This is the best day ever." Emily squeezed his hand. "But you deserve it." Not far from them, Ethan stood with Jake, who was explaining the rules of a card game he had made up. Ethan listened, genuinely interested, smiling at the boy's imagination. Watching Noah and Jake together made Ethan realize something powerful. Both boys had been pushed aside by the world at times, treated like they were different, or ignored altogether. But today, they were the stars of the show, and they were shining brighter than anyone else. The birthday cake arrived in the afternoon. It was a big 3-layered chocolate cake shaped like a rocket ship. Emily had found a bakery that specialized in creative cakes, and she had made sure the design included little astronauts, one with curly black hair like Noah's. When the cake was wheeled out, The crowd clapped and gathered around. Emily stood beside Noah, holding the sparkler candle as it flickered and shined. Then she passed it to Ethan. "You should light it," she whispered. Ethan lit the candle and stepped back. Everyone started singing, and for once Noah didn't look nervous or shy. He looked proud. He smiled through the whole song and blew out the candle with a single, confident breath. Everyone clapped and cheered. Noah raised his arms like a champion, and the kids chanted his name, Noah, Noah, Noah. After the cake was cut, there was dancing. The DJ played fun, silly songs, and the kids rolled, hopped, and spun across the grass. Emily danced too, spinning, with Jake laughing with Noah and even pulling Ethan onto the grass. He resisted at first, awkward and stiff, but eventually even he laughed and joined in. It was a scene of pure joy. People who had started the day as strangers were now hugging, sharing food, and exchanging stories. There were no uncomfortable glances, no whispers, no judgments. Just kindness, just people being people. Later, as the sun began to set and families started packing up, Ethan stood near the lake, watching the golden reflection on the water. Emily came up beside him, holding 2 paper cups of lemonade. "Drink?" Took one, nodding. "Thank you, for everything." Emily smiled. "You don't have to thank me. It's Noah's day." "No," Ethan said seriously. "I do. You gave him something I couldn't. You gave him memories. Real ones." Down at the grass? I didn't do it alone. You didn't have to. Just showing up changed everything. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Ethan turned to her. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you know how rare you are?" Emily laughed gently. "I'm just a girl with too many jobs. And not enough sleep." "No," Ethan said firmly. "You're someone who makes people feel like they matter. That's more valuable than anything I've ever bought." Emily looked at him, slightly surprised. "You're kind to say that." "I mean it," Ethan replied. "Today, watching all these kids smile, watching Noah become part of the world, I realized how much I've missed, how much I kept him away from." "You were trying to keep him safe," Emily said. "That's love too. I just didn't know how much he was missing until you came along." Emily looked out at the sky. It was turning pink and purple as the day ended. "I'm glad I met you both," she said. "And I'm glad you stayed," Ethan whispered, as the party ended. Families hugged goodbye and shared contact details. New friendships had been formed. Some parents were even planning to meet up again with their kids. The event had become more than just a birthday party. It had become a community. Noah was tired but beaming. As he was lifted into the car, he looked at Ethan and said, "Can we do this again next year?" Ethan smiled. "Absolutely." "And the year after that?" "Every year you want," Ethan replied, kissing his forehead. Emily helped pack the last few decorations into her car. Her clothes were messy, her hair full of glitter, and her shoes covered in grass. But she had never looked happier. As she got into her car with Jake, Ethan approached with a small paper bag. "What's this?" "Leftover cake. And a small thank you." She peeked inside and smiled. "You didn't have to." "Yes." "I did," Ethan said. "You've become a big part of our lives." Emily looked at him, her eyes soft. "You've become a big part of mine, too." As she drove away, Ethan stood by his car, watching her go. He felt something deep in his heart, a mix of gratitude, hope, and something else he hadn't felt in a long time. That night, as Noah slept peacefully, holding a balloon in one hand, and his astronaut figure in the other, Ethan sat in his study and opened a drawer. Inside was an envelope he had prepared days ago. It contained more than just papers. It contained a plan, gift, a thank you. He looked at it, then closed the drawer. Tomorrow, he thought. Tomorrow, he would give Emily something that might change her life the way she had changed his. The morning after the big birthday party, Ethan woke up early. The house was quiet. Noah was still sleeping peacefully, probably dreaming about the fun from the day before. Ethan sat by the window, thinking about everything that had happened. In the past weeks, the laughter, the new friendships, and especially Emily. He felt a mix of emotions: gratitude, hope, and a strong desire to do something important. He stood up and walked to his study. There on his desk lay the envelope he had prepared. Inside were documents, carefully organized papers, and a letter addressed to Emily. This wasn't just any letter. It was an invitation away to change her life forever. Ethan had spent the last few days making calls, talking to lawyers and arranging things quietly behind the scenes. He didn't want to rush or pressure Emily. He wanted the gift to feel natural and right. So today, he decided to invite her over for breakfast. Wanted to talk face to face, share his thoughts honestly, and give her something more than words could say. He sent her a quick message, asking if she could come over. Emily replied almost immediately, saying she would be there in 20 minutes. When she arrived, she looked tired but happy, carrying Jake on her hip. Ethan greeted them warmly and invited them in. The breakfast table was already set with Noah's favorite pancakes, fresh fruit, and hot chocolate. Noah ran out of his room, still half asleep, and gave Emily a big hug. Then he grabbed Ethan's hand, ready to start the day. The atmosphere felt light, full of warmth and comfort. After breakfast, Ethan gently asked Emily to sit with him in the living room. Jake played quietly nearby with Noah, who was showing him his new toys from the party. Ethan took a deep breath and said, "Emily, I want to thank you. You've given Noah something I couldn't for a long-time friendship, hope, and happiness." Emily smiled softly. "Noah's a wonderful boy. It's easy to care for him." "I know it is," Ethan said, "but I also know how hard it is for you. Taking care of Jake, working so many jobs, studying, it's a lot for one person." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. "I'm used to it. I don't want anyone's pity." "This isn't pity," Ethan said firmly. "It's respect and gratitude. I've arranged something for you and Jake. It's a way to make life easier, to give you more time and freedom." Emily looked confused, but curious. "What do you mean?" Ethan handed her the envelope. "This is a plan. It includes a trust fund for Jake's care and education, scholarships for you to continue your studies, and a new home, something safe, comfortable, and close to support services." Emily's hands trembled as she opened the papers. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. "This is too much," she whispered. "I can't accept this." "You deserve it," Ethan said gently. "You've given so much to others. Now it's time to receive." Emily looked down, overwhelmed. Then she looked up at Ethan, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for believing in us." Ethan smiled and reached out to hold her hand. "Always." Over the next few weeks, things began to change. Emily didn't have to work 2 jobs anymore. She enrolled back in college with the scholarships Ethan arranged. She and Jake moved into the new home, a beautiful, accessible house with a big backyard and space for both of them to live comfortably. There were ramps, wide doorways, and even a sensory room designed specially for Jake. Noah and Ethan visited often. The bond between the families grew stronger. Noah loved playing with Jake, and Emily loved watching her little brother and Noah laugh and explore together. Ethan also found himself changing. He had learned how to open his heart again, to trust and to hope. Watching Emily's strength inspired him. Started volunteering at support groups and sponsoring programs for children with disabilities. He wanted to give back in ways that mattered. One day, while sitting with Emily in her new home, Ethan asked, "What's next for you?" Emily smiled. "I want to finish college, get a degree in special education, and help kids like Jake and Noah." "That's wonderful," Ethan said. "You have a gift." Emily laughed softly. "Maybe. But it started with you believing in me." Ethan shook his head. "It started with you showing up every day, no matter what." Their friendship became a partnership, a true team. They worked together to create a better life for their children and for others who needed support. Their story spread, inspiring many to look beyond differences and see the person inside. Years later, Ethan watched Noah graduate from high school, standing proudly beside Emily and Jake. Both boys had grown stronger, happier, and more confident. They had faced many challenges, but with love and support, they had overcome. Ethan knew one thing for sure. Sometimes, a small act of kindness, like a waitress befriending a boy, could change a whole family's future. It could bring hope where there was none. It could build bridges where walls once stood. And that was the true gift of friendship, love, and belief.